Welcome to the Secrets of College Planning. I'm your host, Anthony Uva, and today we're going to get some insight into peak performance at the college level. My guest today is Ian Knoll. He is the Senior Associate Athletic Director for Peak Performance at Dartmouth College, and welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Yeah, so usually I start my guests where they went to college. So where'd you go to school?
All right, I had the opportunity to attend Skidmore College, beautiful Saratoga Springs, New York, and had a really amazing four-year experience there.
Great. So let's just go back in time in high school.
Yeah.
When did you start thinking about going to college? Was it freshman year, senior year? When did it all begin for you?
Yeah, I was really fortunate to have had a mother who was in education, who was an elementary school teacher, and from day one kind of planted the seed that you will be going to college. So there really wasn't an option. Sports were the thing that I found on my own, and from day one, it was really wherever you could find a ball, you could find me. Wherever you could find people playing is where I wanted to be. And so I had the opportunity to really bridge those together throughout kind of my education, my best friends coming through sports, and really that being a center point of my childhood. But being able to go to John Baptist High School in Bangor, Maine, where it was a preparatory school with a focus on being able to go to college afterwards. So really, when I went into high school, I didn't have a time where I didn't think, would I be going to college? Even though there weren't a whole lot of people kind of in my family's backgrounds, aside from my mother who did go to college and who completed college. It was just one of those expectations that she really helped put upon me. And I really loved everything about college sports, as I was a sports nut and wanted to watch everything under the sun. So when I had the opportunity to start looking at colleges, I was really looking for places that had a great educational experience first, where I was going to be able to grow, explore, study anything that I wanted, have a large variety. And so the liberal arts really interested me because of the breadth of what I could study. And then had the opportunity to continue to explore sports. And as I look back at how I came from such a small town and what being good in the middle of nowhere, Maine meant, it was a little bit different than when I started to complete on larger scales in track and soccer and basketball, to be able to see, oh, there's another standard of good that exists nationwide, and I'm not there. So that really helped to really narrow down where I'd have the opportunity to compete athletically. And I was much more fit for a Division III athletic experience where my focus was academics first and then athletics being a secondary thing because I got to continue my passion.
Now, was Skidmore the only college that you applied to? When did you start applying to schools? Was it junior year, senior year?
It was junior into senior year, so especially the summer between junior and senior year, my family and I went on a little road trip and visited numerous colleges. I applied to 8 of them. I got waitlisted at 5 of them, got rejected at 1, and Skidmore was the first acceptance that I received, but I'd loved everything about it. So as soon as I had that acceptance, I knew where I wanted to go. And so luckily, that came in the middle of all of the wait lists, so I didn't have to wait till the bitter end before I finally found out that I actually did get into college.
So now you're at Skidmore. What's the school like? How did you like your 4 years there?
I had a great time. We really have a nice balance of it's a very small campus, very student centered. The professors were really teaching all of our undergraduate classes. And so that, to me, the connection with professors who are some of the best in their fields, and then such a powerful peer group, were the two things that I think made my experience such a special one for me. I look at some of my best friends to this day were those that I met within my first 3 months of my freshman year of college. And who knew that we were actually going to be able to create lifelong friendships, just meeting at orientation or being able to show up and play basketball together or whatever other things brought us together. And then that really kind of fostered into figuring out this idea of the mind and the body was something that I was really fascinated in. And so I started studying psychology as an interest, and soon after learned that sports psychology was a field. And there had been a professor there the year before I got there. He left, Tom Hansen, who taught sports psychology and has written and practiced applied sports psychology for years. But because of that, the Skidmore bubble had this idea: oh, you're interested in sports, you're interested in psychology. We've had someone who taught sports psychology here for years, and this was at the point where there weren't a whole lot of schools ever mentioning the phrase sports psychology or considering that. And so I was able to blend exercise science and psychology as double majors in this ability to look at how the mind and body really interact to create performance of any kind, to really enhance performance, to then really create those choking moments, or the other side of when the mind doesn't do what we want it to be doing in those moments where we're trying to get it to be aligned with something, or how pressure really interacts. And so I had the opportunity to do an undergraduate thesis where I was looking at, in a laboratory setting, how these different mental priming exercises could get us focused on different things and what that might do to impact the actual physiological performance.
Wow.
And so while I really didn't know exactly what I was doing at the time, it really got me down this path of trying to see what happens kind of in the 6 inches between the ears and how that impacts all other aspects of our performance beyond that.
So now you're a PhD in this field. So did you go to schooling elsewhere after Skidmore?
Yeah. So after Skidmore, I took a year off and I coached basketball and track and ran sports camps, and then took 5 weeks and drove cross country and really took a map, put up the 4 corners, and friend and I went and looked at where are all the places we would like to visit grad schools. And now let's kind of connect that line, and let's go every place that has a program that we're interested in. And my interests were in sports psychology. And so I spent 5 weeks driving across the country and finding some of the best sports psychology programs out there, and emailing or calling professors and aligning visits, and really getting a chance to see how the U.S. Trains for sports psychology professionals at that time. And in that, I had the opportunity to have an amazing conversation with Ken Ravizza at Cal State Fullerton, who's really one of the grandfathers of American sports psychology, and really this lens and focus on performance enhancement, that you don't have to be broke to fix it. You don't have to be sick to get better. This is something that as human beings that we can all be growing and improving every day, regardless of where we're starting from. And that really got me fired up. And so I knew if I had an opportunity to go study there, that that's where I wanted to be. And so that was my first stop in graduate school, was Cal State Fullerton, where I did a master's in kinesiology focused on sports psychology and performance enhancement. And that point, I had the opportunity to then go to WVU, West Virginia University, to do a PhD in sports psychology and a master's in counseling. And so that really combined kind of this full experience, now 10 years of education under my belt, but really it was 10 years of getting to study under some of the best in all different areas of human performance, from the physical to the mental, and then being able to look at how all of it came together.
So now, how does one go from graduating in Virginia to all the way to Dartmouth College back in New Hampshire?
Yeah. Well, from West Virginia, I headed up to Colgate University first, and that was my first job. I worked in the counseling center there, because the one area where I felt like I was least developed was understanding of the true counseling and mental health side of college sport and college environments in general. I had a master's in counseling, but I'd spend almost all of my time doing applied work helping build mental skills. I was a volunteer assistant coach on the tennis team, and I sat on the bench not to tell anyone how to hit a stroke, but to tell them how to focus on the right things at the right time.
Wow.
And how to train and adapt their mind. And I did the same with the athletic department at Waynesburg University, And then those really kind of created an opportunity that when a position as the director of sports psychology opened at Kansas State University, I got a call about the opening and had really great conversations with a couple of their coaches and administrators about what they were looking for. Because my background was in this really proactive mental skills building background, and it wasn't focused primarily on let's look at treating mental illness, but let's look at promoting mental wellness across an entire range of student athletes. And that brought me to Kansas for 4 years. And so spent time in the Little Apple, Manhattan, Kansas, and had really this opportunity to spend my time working with some amazing coaches and student athletes in helping them to become the best versions of themselves and really helping them focus in on the right things at the right times and adapt to mindsets and mental frameworks that were really productive for their performance. But ultimately, I'm a Northeaster. I'm from Maine, and my wife is from Marietta, Ohio, and her family's in DC. And we knew we really wanted to settle down on the East Coast. And so somewhere in that Maine to DC corridor is where we really started looking in terms of where we could be connected most with family. And that's when we found Dartmouth. And we were very fortunate that both of us had an opportunity to work for Dartmouth College.
Wow.
I spent some time traveling and consulting, working in professional sports and working in corporate environments, doing mental training to kind of build up the freedom to be able to travel out to find something. And as we got here, this position at Dartmouth College opened up, and call it kismet or whatever happened to be. I was at the right place at the right time, having had experiences really working in all areas of human performance to be able to step into an administrative role to direct a lot of our holistic student athlete development programming. And so that's really what kind of brought me here. And Dartmouth was one of the places that was on that wait list back when I was looking at colleges initially. And so I'd fallen in love with Dartmouth in the summer of 2001. And so as soon as I had that opportunity to come out here professionally, I jumped on it. And so after 4 degrees, they finally let me in.
So now you're doing it. You're the director of Peak Performance there. So let's get into Peak Performance. What exactly is Peak Performance for student athletes at the college level?
Yeah, absolutely. And the way we framework this at Dartmouth is to look at really all the service areas outside of coaching and teaching of this sport skill that really impact human performance. And so we focus on academic support and career development, kind of focusing on that intellectual development. We also look at leadership and mental performance, sport and counseling psychology, as well as strength and conditioning and sports medicine and sport nutrition and integrative health on this kind of the wellness and physical performance domain. And then we connect through all of that with looking at how do we use sports science and innovative technology to be able to give us data to make informed decisions. And so if I were to kind of look at the service areas, those are the things that come together, and that I really focus on hiring and developing the staff to work with our student athletes in those various service areas. But when I look at peak performance all together, I think about developing whole people. And so we're looking at holistic development and having a level of support that meets the challenge of being a Division I student athlete, especially a Division I student athlete in the Ivy League. So if we look at the research of where do we have the greatest level of growth and resiliency, it's when we have an extremely high level of challenge. So if you can imagine kind of an axis here, and we have this extremely high level of challenge, we need to have the equally high level of support where we have this level of growth and resilience that is built. If there's a whole lot of challenge and no support, the environment's unrelenting. And that's where you see a lot of burnout. We see student athletes that may leave their sport if we have an environment that's extremely supportive, but no one's being pushed to grow, to get better, to challenge themselves, kind of a coddling environment. It's comfortable, but we're not becoming the best versions of ourselves. We're just being a little bit more complacent. And so our whole focus is, how do we balance these two? How do we create these environments that are challenging for our student athletes to step into, knowing that they're fully prepared and fully supported when they're there? And so that's where we look at peak performance as building this supportive environment to meet the challenge of the Ivy League student athlete experience, to help them being our student athletes, pursue what we call comprehensive excellence. It's the idea that you're not coming to Dartmouth if you're looking to just be a average student or to have a mediocre athletic experience. That we're looking at, how do we create the skills and the habits and behaviors that will align with becoming the best version of yourself in whatever you do. Sport becomes the perfect training ground for that. And sport in many ways can be a metaphor for life, or a training ground for life, based on the adversity we have to deal with, this forced teamwork that many workplaces become forced teamwork. But it's hard to replicate that in a classroom where, in the end of, at Dartmouth, 10 weeks is our term system, but at the end of a term or the end of a semester, you may never have to work with that person again. On a team, you have to look that person in the eyes for the next 4 years, knowing that you have each other's backs. And so those things that are created through sport, I think, really becomes this training ground for life. And so that's where our focus is, on really those three things: providing this excellent level of support to meet the challenge, helping to focus on holistic development, becoming the best version of ourselves in all areas, and then chasing comprehensive excellence and pursuing that in the classroom, in a career, and on the field.
So now, a student that comes to Dartmouth College, give me an example of a student athlete coming. Do they come to your office and say, I want to get better at my particular sport? And then what happens from there? What's the process that you take?
Absolutely. That's a great question. I think what it's going to look like for each student athlete is going to be a little bit different. So we introduce all of our student athletes in their orientation when they get here to our Dartmouth Peak Performance program. And then many of the people within our peak performance team, maybe their athletic trainer, maybe their strength and conditioning coach, maybe our leadership and mental performance consultant, or our sport nutritionist, are going to be folks that they see every single day or multiple days per week. And we integrate workshops and team trainings. We look at how we kind of build in and periodize most of what we're doing within the sports season. So there's certain kind of skill building things we want to really be focused on in the off season or the preseason leading up to the season. There's other things that we really know that it hits the student athlete's radar as soon as the season hits. That's when they think, oh man, now I really need to maybe focus on my mental game. Okay, I know I had all off season, but okay, now I'm seeing that I'm let's use a basketball example, the third person off the bench, and I've never come off the bench before in my life. I don't even know how to prepare for this. How do I prepare for this new role? Or it could be someone who's struggling for the first time in their career, that, a track athlete who now all of a sudden starts this new rigorous training program, and they're building toward the HEPs, what we call our, at the end of the year for Ivies. And that may be what they're periodizing or building toward. And they actually have a few weeks where they're plateauing, they're really struggling, because the goal isn't to be at your best during week 2 or week 3. The goal is to build toward that. But they've only ever focused in high school on being at their best today, and they expect this path to be very linear. And so there's a lot of that where, if this is their need right now, we use that as an in. And so we can address that, and then we can look at, as a team, how we create an ongoing framework for building these skills along the way. So if a student athlete comes in, we encourage them to identify, okay, this week, if you were to choose one of these service areas, it could be your academic skills. And you may realize that you want to focus on being able to take more efficient notes in your class because you realize that you keep going back to remember what happened last week. And you in high school had no problem relying on your memory. And now, okay, you have so many things going on that just remembering what that was isn't enough. You need to be able to study really efficiently, or you just need to be able to talk through which classes you might be most interested in taking. That may be your priority week 1 and week 2 or week 3 of the term. Then let's look at, okay, week 4, week 5, week 6, what's the next thing for you? Is it that you want to spend that extra hour per week developing a food log, identifying kind of your eating habits, and now that you're making all your food decisions in the dining hall, how are those actually pursuing what you like to eat, but what your body really needs? And so really looking at throughout their college career, every student athlete has the ability to kind of evolve and adapt and kind of create their own journey and invest the time in what's important for them. But then along the way, they'll be exposed to all areas of peak performance to be able to give them a baseline across the board and then be able to create that initial entrance so they know if I'm ready to take this deeper. I've already had a dining hall tour with our sport dietitian. So now if I want to go and sit down and say, okay, I know you talked about these different things in the dining hall, but I'm in there trying to do it myself now. And I just keep going back and grabbing 3 cookies at the end of every meal. Is that okay for me, or is there a better way to do this? How do I not zap all of my willpower every dinner? And how do I focus on really building a diet that's working best for me?
So now, do you work with them all year round, even when they're not at school?
So the summer is unique here at Dartmouth because our sophomores going into their junior year stay here for what we call sophomore summer. So that actually becomes a really great opportunity for us to have a quarter of our student athletes for more intensive training. We have a summer class that's based on our departmental core values called the DRIVE course. So DRIVE represents development, resiliency, ingenuity, valor, and excellence. And we look at having this kind of value-based leadership curriculum that is half spent in a classroom where they'll have different speakers and discussions and exercises, and then half spent experientially, where they're out there either on the river or in the woods or running around doing scavenger hunts across campus and working together in small groups to be able to put these lessons into action in various settings. And then we'll use that time as an opportunity to do healthy cooking classes so they can learn these skills. Coming into being an upperclassman, they may not choose the full dining hall package anymore. They may live off campus and actually want to gain the skill of being able to cook for themselves a little bit better than those of us who just learned on the fly and made a whole lot of mistakes, or, just ordered a lot of pizza until we figured it out. But then we want to be able to help support those who are not here too. And so we try to do those more electronically, try to create resource databases. We use programs for our strength and conditioning training that our student athletes can check in throughout the year. It doesn't matter where they are. They have their own profile. They have their own training program that's adapted for their team, their sport, that they can continue to really focus on training proactively. But that becomes a time where the students really look for themselves. Where do I want to invest this energy? I've heard the term many times that individuals, are developed in the off season. Teams are developed in the regular season. Champions are developed in the postseason, right? So for that individual development phase, a lot of the time when they're not here actually becomes really critical. And so we try to get ahead of that. I think it's one of the bigger challenges because you're not seeing us face to face every day. And so it's easy to just have that fall off the radar. Yeah. And that's okay to be able to have balance in your lives. We don't expect anyone to be all in, all sports, all day, all the time, or all into my own development all day, every time. We need time to recover, to relax, to look at our career opportunities and develop. But we really want to be able to help them have resources to use that time for their own personal development, especially when they're not here.
So we're coming to the end of our show, and usually I ask my guests, what advice do you want to give to the student athletes that are interested in coming to Dartmouth College? What advice do you want to give them about peak performance from yourself?
Right. I think there's a couple things. I think the first thing is to realize that every student athlete is far more than those two words combined. There's student and athlete. Those should be really 1 and 1A of your life, in terms of where some of your commitments lie to be a successful Division I student athlete. But we all know that regardless of what your stat line is or your GPA is, you're a person. You're a son or a daughter. You're a friend. You have interests and passions, and not to lose any of that in the mix. I think really critical is to be able to realize that we are all whole people, that we're never going to find anything that's perfect, and it's never going to stay that way. I think we have a challenge these days where I often say we live our own bloopers reel and we see everyone else's highlight reels. That as you're looking at other folks taking campus visits, or you're just sitting there scrolling through Instagram, you see the best of the best. But realizing that that is the highlight reel. We can make anyone a great highlight reel, but that's not life. Life is this full range of emotions and ups and downs and struggles and challenges. And really, I think one of the best pieces of advice I've been given and I like to share with others is to be able to embrace all of that, and that's what life is. And so then within that, you're this whole person living a whole life experience. Now the critical piece is to realize, okay, now what am I going to do about it? And where do I want to focus my time and energy? And so much of peak performance to me is being able to help empower people to have the resources to focus their energy on the thing that they feel is most critical for them right now.
Great.
And sometimes that may be sleep, and that's a critical performance enhancer. And then sometimes that may be having an extra hour to study, or spending that time sitting in our recovery lounge with Normatechs on their legs, so they're doing some passive recovery while they're studying for a test, or while they're learning to meditate, or learning a different mental skill that they can be practicing on their own as well.
Well, thank you very much for coming on the show. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
So you've been watching The Secrets of College Planning. I'm your host, Anthony Uva. Until next time.